بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Imam Muhasibi rahmatullahi alayhi, after speaking about the importance of putting in full effort, he says, وَعْلَمْ أَنَّ مِن سَعَادَةِ الْمَرْءِ, know that from the good fortune of a man, حُسْنَ النِّيَّةِ فِي مَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى, is for the person to have good good intentions. فِي مَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى, in those things which are with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So niyyah, when a person has the ability to make good niyyah, this is a sign that this person is fortunate and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has love for the person. What is niyyah? Niyyah is for the heart to have a firm resolution to do something or leave something. At the end of the day, anything that we do, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to allow us to do it. For example, I want to pick up this hat, right? I want to pick it up. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is allowing me to pick up this hat now. So many times we want to do a good thing. I want to come to the masjid to pray salah. But now there's some situation at home and the child is home alone, you can't come, right? Allah didn't allow you to come. Or you want to come and then there's a crash on middle belt, you're not able to make it, right? Allah rewards us based on the niyat. That's why we get rewarded, because we can't control the outcome of everything. The one thing that we have control of is our intention. And when we try to carry out some action, Allah may or may not allow us to do it. But when we have the niyyah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives us the reward. Ibn al-Qayyim rahmatullahi alayhi, he said that niyat, intention, is the root and pillar of an action. Things are built upon the niyyah. He goes on and he says that it's the soul of an action, and it's the leader of an action, and it's the thing that drives the action forward. Actions follow the niyyah, and they're valid or they're invalid based on it. I remember when we started to study 2 times. In Alim course, the last 2 years is when you study hadith. Before that, you study it, but not too much. But you study hadith in detail the last 2 years. Why? After spending 4 or 5 years, then the last 2 years you study hadith. Why? Because hadith is a deep science. It's not just something that, a person can say, I feel motivated, I'm going to buy Sahih Bukhari and I'm going to read the whole Bukhari. It's not like that. A person will become confused, right? They make you study for 4 or 5 years before you're allowed to study Mishkat. After Mishkat, the next year you study Bukhari. But the first hadith in Mishkat is إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Our teacher, Qari Ilyas Sahab, he went over that, I think, for 2 weeks. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Next year we did in Bukhari again. Again, for several weeks we went over just إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Because niyyah is so important. What is that hadith? إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِمْرِئٍ مَّا نَوَى. Actions are rewarded based upon intention, and for each person is whatever they intend. مَا نَوَى. What we learn from this is you could have multiple intentions when coming to the masjid, for example. Your intention could be to pray salah. Your intention could be to help out people. Your intention could be to meet Muslim brothers. Your intention could be to sit in this dars. You'll get rewarded for all of that, right? And then he says, فَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ وَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ لِدُنْيَا يُصِيبُهَا أَوْ إِمْرَأَةٍ يَنْكَحُهَا فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى مَا هَاجَرَ إِلَيْهِ. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the biggest action, imagine, many people who are maybe from Pakistan, they could understand, because you could ask your grandparents, what is hijrat? Leaving everything behind and going to a complete new life, right? Literally leaving your entire life behind. A deed like that, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, if the niyat is wrong, if the intention is wrong, you don't get anything, right? Because there was a sahabi, he made hijrah because he loved a woman in Medina, and she said that my mahar is that you make hijrah and you become Muslim. So he made hijrah for her, and they used to call her Muhajir Ummi Qais. That's what they used to call him, the one who did hijrah for Ummi Qais. Now the Sahaba never mentioned his name. We don't know his actual name, because that was a joke between the Sahaba. But they didn't expose each other. But when Rasulullah heard he made hijrah for this, he stood up and he said this. So niyat is something that's very important, and the action can become invalid based on niyyah. And so what we could do, Shaykh Abdul Fattah Abu Ghudda rahmatullahi alayhi, he says that هذا من أكبر نعم الله تعالى على العبد المسلم. That the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards based on niyyah, this is one of the greatest ni'mas that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. There was one of the Salaf named Abu Safwan, he said, مَا ضَعُفَ بَدَنٌ قَطُّ عَنْ نِيَّةٍ. He said, the body will never become tired from making good intentions. That you can do. Imam Ahmad, once he told his son that, يَا بُنَيَّ إِنْوِ الْخَيْرِ فَإِنَّكَ لَا تَزَالُ بِخَيْرٍ مَا نَوَيْتَ الْخَيْرِ. He said to his son said, give me some advice. He said, oh son, continuously make good intentions, because you will continuously be in good as long as you're making good intentions. And Ibrahim al-Nakha'i rahmatullahi alayh, he said about one of the tabi'un, Abdul Rahman bin Yazid al-Nakha'i, he said that he would always make niyyah, to the extent that even when he drank water, he would make a niyyah. Niyyah to refresh himself, niyyah to drink water in accordance with the sunnah, niyyah to appreciate Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's ni'mah. And on the other hand, it's very difficult. Sufyan Sawri rahmatullahi alayhi, he said, the hardest thing is niyyah, because it keeps changing on you. Abdullah bin Mubarak rahmatullahi alayhi is one of the famous Salafi Salihin. Abdullah bin Mubarak was a muhaddis. He was a student of Imam Abu Hanifa and a student of Imam Malik. And he used to divide his life into years. 1 year he would do business. He was very successful in business. And then 1 year he would study. And then 1 year he would do jihad. And then 1 year he would do hajj. He would go through the cycle. Anyway, Abdullah bin Mubarak, when he passed away, somebody saw his students, they saw him in the dream, and they asked him, what happened with Abdullah bin Mubarak? What happened to you? He said, Allah rewarded me a lot. But he said, you know who Allah rewarded more than me? Who? He said, my neighbor, the blacksmith. I said, how can that happen? So these students, they went to the neighbor, and they asked his wife, because he'd passed away. They asked the wife, what did your husband do? What good deed did he do that got him this reward? She said, nothing. He's a normal Muslim. So no, he had to do something. She said, look, whenever it would be salat time, even if he had his hammer in the air, he would put his hammer down and he would go for salat. He said, okay, there's other people like that. She said, oh, there's one more thing. Whenever he would go to sleep at night, he would make dua for his neighbor, Abdullah bin Mubarak. He'd say, Ya Allah, reward Abdullah bin Mubarak. Give him abundant reward for all the good that he's doing. Allow him to keep serving the Muslims. And Ya Allah, I wish that I had free time like him, I would do the same as him. So he got rewarded for all of the things Abdullah bin Mubarak did. Why? Because he had this niyat. And then he had his own good deeds. So we should continuously make niyat. And anna min sa'adatil mar'i, from the glad tidings, from the fortune of a person, is husna niyati fima indallahi ta'ala, is to have a good deed regarding those things that are with Allah. What tawfiqa li mahabbihi, and the ability to have love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is also good fortune. When a person loves Allah. I was just, famous hadith, it's in Bukhari and Muslim, in which Anas radiyallahu an, he says, Salathum man kunna fihi wajada bihinna halawat al-iman. A person who has these three qualities, they'll find the sweetness of iman. The first one is man kana Allahu wa rasuluhu ahabba ilayhi. That the most beloved people to him are Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Right? So when a person has love for Allah, this is good fortune. That means that we'll give up our desires if it comes to pleasing Allah. وَمَنْ أَرَادَ اللَّهُ بِهِ خَيْرًا, and whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intends good for, وَهَبَ لَهُ الْعَقْلَ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him intelligence. But a person of intelligence is one who uses their intellect to obey Allah. وَحَبَّبَ إِلَيْهِ الْعِلْمِ, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes knowledge beloved to this person. But knowledge is not just facts. Knowledge is what a person acts upon. A person can sit all day in front of the computer and or on the phone and watch video after video after video after video and say, I love ilm. But not really, your nafs feels good when you listen to these things, right? If it's not leading you to do some action, It's information, right? Knowledge is that which spurs you to do action. Like half the time when I'm leaving here, somebody saying, what's up, I have to ask some masala. That masala, that's knowledge. Why? Because you're asking something that's immediately relevant to your life, and you're going to apply it immediately. That's knowledge. I'm not saying don't listen to lectures. Listen to lectures. It's beneficial, but also see what effect they're having on you, right? Is it spurring you to do more, or is it just like ear candy? It's good. It's better than listening to something else, right? But see, is it spurring you to do something? One of the most effective things I would say for a person, choose one or two scholars. Listen to their lectures consistently. If when they talk, if it affects your heart, if you realize that you're actually acting upon the things that they said, then that's enough for you, right? Otherwise, there's so much out there. We listen to so much, we watch so much, and we end up doing very little. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq. And it's never too late to gain knowledge, right? You don't have to become a big alim. Learn enough knowledge to live your life and to keep moving forward. Like we're having, inshallah, we're going to continue having these short 6-week classes, 8-week classes on specific subjects. And inshallah, there'll be things that we can apply in our life. If you have some ideas for things that you want to do, let me know, inshallah. We'll try to make it happen. And then I'm just going to finish the sentence. He says, وَحَبَاءُ بِالْإِشْفَاقِ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives this person fear of Him. Fear is something that will keep a person away from many, many sins. وَاسْتَعْمَلَهُ بِالرِّفْقِ. And Allah deals with this person with kindness. وَأَغْنَاهُ بِالْقَنَاعَةِ. And Allah makes this person rich through contentment. Allah, this is good fortune when you're content with what you have. You're not always looking for the next big thing. And last, وَبَصَّرَهُ عَيْبَهُ. And a person is fortunate when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens their eyes to their own faults. They used to say about people, كَفَى بِالْمَرْءِ عَيْبًا. It's enough to consider a person deficient that they see everybody else's faults and not their own. But when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens your eyes to your faults, this shows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He wants good for you. May Allah give us tawfiq and may Allah make us fortunate people. And there's one, I had mentioned the other day about there was one more dua. He keeps asking me every day. I keep forgetting to say at the end. So if you want to record this dua, it's similar to that first dua. Allahumma inni as'aluka nafsan bika mutma'innatan. Right? Does anybody remember that one? No? تؤمن بلقائك وترضى بقضائك وتقنع بعطائك. This is a similar dua. I'll just read it. If you want to record it, and then I'll translate it. So it's also a very beautiful dua. The dua is narrated in Majma'u Zawaid. Allahumma inni as'aluka imanan yubashiru qalbi hatta a'lama la yusibuni illa ma katabtali wa ridam min al-ma'ishati bima qasamtali. O Allah, I ask you for such iman that permeates my heart to the point that I am convinced and I know that nothing comes to me except that which was written for me. وَرِضًا مِنَ الْمَعِيشَةِ بِمَا قَسَمْتَ لِي. And I'm pleased with whatever rizq you have apportioned for me, you have appointed for me. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah.